Alright, we did all of Half-Life 2 and the episodes. Now we're doing Half-Life 1. And we're just doing Half-Life 1. I will do Blue Shift and Opposing Force. However, I am not cramming it all into one tier list, because I will go insane trying to compare all of these chapters. It is impossible. The more you add to a tier list, the harder it gets to accurately and fairly compare things. As I pretty much found with the last tier list I did with the episodes, I made the mistake of putting Root Canal far too high, and that's just because, for some reason, it went straight over my head to compare Root Canal to the other chapters. And that's because when you add too much to a tier list, it gets too difficult to accurately do things. So, we're doing Half-Life. We're doing all of Half-Life 1, just in this tier list. As you can see, we got S all the way down to... So, without further ado, let's just begin. Half-Life 1 is probably quite a difficult one for me to do. It's hard for me to do this one. I don't know why. I said it in the last video that I thought Half-Life 1 would be kind of difficult, and I think it is. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. We'll see if people absolutely hate my opinions here. But it doesn't matter, because my opinion is always right. Anyway, Chapter 0, because it's not actually a chapter, Hazard Course. Hazard Course is the tutorial. It is an in-universe tutorial, which is always nice, as in, it is actually Gordon Freeman doing the Hazard Course, which is an actual thing that's done, like, in Black Mesa, which is very cool. It's very cool that Valve kept the Hazard Course as an in-universe thing. But it is just a tutorial, so I'm going to be putting it in D tier, because it doesn't belong in but it is, it's alright. I don't tend to play it. I'll usually skip this when I play Half-Life, but I don't know, sometimes I'll play the Hazard Course for no particular reason. So anyway, there's the Hazard Course. Now let's actually start with the game. Chapter 1, Black Mesa Inbound. This is the tram ride. There isn't really much I can say. I'm gonna put the... I'm not even really gonna say much about it. It's the tram ride. I'm gonna put it in D tier below Hazard Course. There's no gameplay. I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, this tier list is based on replayability. I have played all of the Half-Life games to death. If you've seen my previous tier list, you already know this. But when it comes to Black Mesa Inbound, I'll usually just skip it. To be honest, usually you can't skip chapters in Half-Life 1 like you can in Half-Life 2, but you can open the console and skip all the way to a particular map. But I'll usually play Half-Life all the way through without skipping. But when it comes to Black Mesa Inbound, I just want this to be over, to be honest. I mean, it's very cool, it's not bad. But it's just a tram ride, what can I say? Then we've got Chapter 2, Anomalous Materials. This is also going in D tier, don't have much to say about it. It is better than Black Mesa Inbound, because you get to move around. But this is, once again, it's just the intro. You're walking around, you're getting the hazard suit, and that's pretty much it. And you go obviously into the chamber, and everything goes wrong. It's still the introduction to the game. There's nothing for me to really say about it. It's going to stay in D tier. But then, Chapter 3, Unforeseen Consequences. This is where Half-Life really starts. This is where everything has gone wrong, and you get the crowbar, you get the pistol, and you finally get to do some gameplay. And I'm going to be putting Unforeseen Consequences in C, because there's still not much to say about it. The gameplay is very basic. It's effectively still the intro, but you get some weapons, you get to do some stuff. It's very cool to see. There's something about walking through the area in Anomalous Materials and then going back through it after it's all been destroyed and everyone is dead. That's a very, very cool thing in not just Half-Life, but games in general. There's something about Half-Life 1, particularly this Anomalous Materials bit, and then going through the same area again after it's all destroyed. Something about it sparks a lot of imagination. it's just extremely cool. It's definitely one of the things that, you know, obviously made Half-Life as famous as it is, which is that immersion and things, you know, particularly with these two chapters, that is what you really remember about Half-Life. But let's go on to chapter 4, Office Complex. So, Office Complex, to me, alright, Office Complex, I love Office Complex. No matter how many times I play Half-Life, Office Complex to me is where Half-Life really kicks off. This is where you get introduced to you get. I mean, you saw a Vortigaunt in Unforeseen Consequences, but Office Complex is where you see multiple of them in combat. It's where you get the shotgun. There's lots of scientists and there's lots of guards in this chapter. You can open up shortcuts to the previous areas and bring the NPCs with you to pretty much through this whole chapter. Like, you can get to the end of this chapter and have an army of guards and scientists. Office Complex to me is A tier. This chapter, this is Half-Life, right? Like, this is fucking gameplay. This is, with all of the scientists and the sort of hallway shotgun gameplay. This is like all of the personality and all of the gameplay of Half-Life in one chapter. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but Office Complex to me is quintessential Half-Life. It is so memorable in the way that it looks with the checkered floor and the red doorways and things. Like, visually and gameplay wise, with all of the guards and the scientists, because there's quite a lot of dialogue going on in this chapter. It's also where you get introduced to the idea that the military is going to come and save everyone. Office Complex is just so good. It is where Half-Life really kicks off. And I didn't play Half-Life back in the day, because back in 1998 I was too busy being a baby. But Office Complex, I can imagine, is where Half-Life really sort of, obviously these intro chapters were extremely impressive and extremely cool, but I feel like Office Complex is really where it gets going. Like, Office Complex is great. This is A tier to me, without a doubt. I love Office Complex. Alright, chapter 5, we've got Hostiles. So we've gone from Office Complex, which is a great quintessential Half-Life chapter, to we've got Hostiles, which is the chapter where you are introduced to the military and the fact that the military is not friendly. You have great arena designs, you have scientists running around. This to me is high A tier. We've Got Hostiles is such a great chapter. It is coming off of Office Complex. Like, these two chapters are great. No matter how many times I play them, I really like them. Even though, like, once you've played Half-Life to death and you really know what you're doing, We've Got Hostiles is so much fun to fight the Marines in the arenas that were created. I think the arena design with you start off with the Marines above you and then you finish with the Marines below you in these very sort of obvious, like, arena setups, but they're just so good. They're so good. And even when you've played the game to death, you can blow through this relatively easily. There is just something about this chapter that I really, really enjoy. So We've Got Hostiles as an A, and I like it more than Office Complex. But these two right here, quintessential Half-Life, just great. Then we go on to chapter 6. Chapter 6, Blast Pit. Now, Blast Pit is a chapter that people tend to rank very highly from what I've seen. I've seen people put Blast Pit into S tier. For me personally, I guess it was a pacing decision, but Blast Pit is nowhere near as interesting to me as We've Got Hostiles or Office Complex. Blast Pit, to me, is a C tier. It's better than Unforeseen Consequences, because it has a lot more gameplay, but I find Blast Pit to be a lot of backtracking and avoiding the big tentacle monster. I find avoiding the big tentacle monster to be really irritating on multiple playthroughs. I don't want to rank this as a D tier, because it doesn't deserve it. It's better than Unforeseen Consequences, but I don't have particularly strong feelings about Blast Pit. I tend to run through this as fast as possible. And I think that's because when you come off of Office Complex and we've got hostiles, Blast Pit just really doesn't feel very good. And it feels like the game slows down quite a bit. But I guess that was for pacing reasons or whatever. But I don't like Blast Pit that much, to be real honest. And I know that a lot of people really like Blast Pit. I don't. And then we go into Chapter 7, Power Up, which I think Power Up is worse than Blast Pit. This is like C tier to me. This is where you see the Gargantua, I think it's pronounced. It's kind of boring, this chapter. There's a little bit of marine, not really a bit of marine fighting. The marines kind of get killed by the Gargantua, which is, I suppose, interesting to watch. But I don't really have anything to say about this this chapter. There is a decent arena fight with the marines. This is another one of those chapters where I'll just kind of run through it like real quick, and I don't particularly have strong feelings about it. And I think that's why I said that. You probably notice I'm talking slightly less, I think, about chapters than I did in Half-Life 2, and that's because I really like Half-Life 1. I absolutely don't dislike it, but I feel there's a lot less to say about it. Maybe that's just me. And then we're moving on to, so we've had two kind of sort of below mid chapters, in my opinion. And then we move on to On a Rail. On a Rail. The best decision that the Black Mesa remake developers ever made was to shorten On a Rail. On a Rail is boring. I will put this above Hazard Course, but On the Rail is boring to me. It is, you are stuck in a vehicle going forward in a big maze on a rail, like the chapter says, and there's bits of decent combat in there, but there's also a ton of extremely, extremely irritating stuff in this chapter with the electrified rails and the trip mines and the getting lost, and I just do not like this chapter. In fact, it kind of reminds me of something. A chapter where you are stuck on or in a vehicle going forward, and there's little bits of decent combat, but for the most part, it's annoying and not very fun. Oh man, where have I heard of that before? Okay, Chapter 9, Apprehension. Apprehension is where you meet the thing that I can't pronounce. It is where you get the crossbow. It's a lot of swimming, and that's about it. You finish this chapter fighting the Black Ops Marines, and then you get caught by two Marines in a dark room. This to me is low C tier. I don't particularly like Apprehension. I don't particularly have much to say about it. It's got a bit of platforming in it and a lot of swimming, and that's about all I can really say about it. I don't mind the ending fight with the Black Ops ladies. Some people find them to be really difficult. I don't really think they're that difficult. But yes, not a lot for me to say about Apprehension, to be real honest. Kind of like a lot of these chapters. I don't have much to say about them. They're kind of just, they're alright. They're kind of mid. Then we're going on to chapter 10. We're still not going good. We're on Residue Processing. I dislike Residue Processing even more than I dislike On a Rail. I really don't like Residue Processing. This is a very annoying chapter with lots of conveyor belts and trip mines that insta-kill you hidden around corners. Or at least they can insta-kill you. When playing this, when you don't know where you're going, it's so much worse when you're playing this chapter and you don't know where you're going. I hate Residue Processing. I will not defend it at all. It's very annoying. There's very little combat. You don't have any weapons because you lost all your weapons. There can be a lot of backtracking if you get lost. This just sucks. Really don't like Residue Processing. Really don't want to talk about it. I wouldn't put it in tier because there's far worse things than Residue Processing, but I don't like Residue Processing, unfortunately. However, After all these okay chapters I don't have a particular strong feeling for, we finally get into the good shit. Questionable ethics, S tier. Questionable ethics is great. You discover that Black Mesa has actually been studying these Zen creatures for quite a while, and they have a bunch of them locked up. And questionable ethics is great. Lots of marine fighting. You have guards and scientists, which I always enjoy seeing involved in chapters, especially when they have little bits of dialogue and things like that. Questionable ethics, great chapter. Visually is very memorable visually with all of the blue corridors. But I really like questionable ethics. It's great. And then we go on to chapter 12, surface tension, which is even better than questionable ethics. This is you've got the dam, you've got the cliffs, you've got tons of fighting with the Marines. You sort of finally get to the surface and you realize that it's all out war between the Marines and the aliens. This is awesome. Surface tension is probably the best chapter in it is the best chapter in the entire game. Surface tension is fantastic. It's just great gameplay the whole way through. Surface tension is where Half-Life peaks, really, in my opinion. And then we move on to what is effectively like the second half of surface tension, which is Forget About Freeman. Forget About Freeman is where you're underground and fighting the alien grunts, which I don't particularly like, to be honest. The alien grunts are kind of just big bullet sponges. I'm not a huge fan of fighting them. This is B tier for me. Don't particularly have much to say about it. There's a very hard tank fight at one point, which is kind of fun. There's an outdoor sort of area with a tank, and you have to fight some Marines there. That's kind of fun, but Forget About Freeman, it's alright. It's like the second half of Surface Tension, I guess. It's okay. Then we go to Lambda Core, where you finally reach the Lambda Complex, and you get some more scientist stuff, which is always nice. I like seeing scientists, just because I like their dialogue, because they're funny. Lambda Core, I like Lambda Core more than Forget About Freeman. There's like a lot of good combat in here, kind of a lot of running back and forth, and you have to open those things underwater to get to the sort of teleporter tower, where you have to go in the right teleporter. That's not a fun bit. I'm not a huge fan of that. But this chapter ends as well with you defending a scientist as he's opening the portal to Zen. It's alright. It's okay. Not a lot to say about it. It's alright. I'm not a huge fan of Lambda Core, but I like it more than Forget About Freeman. Now we're coming to the real shit. Now we're getting to the last chapters. Chapter 15, Zen. Now, Zen is pretty controversial. I think most people are in agreement that Zen is not very good. It sort of takes Half-Life away from what it's really good at, and you go on to do a lot of platforming in not particularly interesting looking environments. I think, what Valve tried to do with Zen, which is that they tried to make it like a world beyond human comprehension, right? Like, they tried to make a world that truly feels alien, which is what I like about Half-Life 1 Zen compared to Black Mesa Zen. Black Mesa Zen is fantastic, and it's way better than Half-Life 1 Zen in terms of gameplay. But one of the things I like about Half-Life 1 Zen is that it feels like an actual alien world. And I think that's what Valve was going for. But I'm going to put Zen below On a Rail and below Residue Processing. It doesn't belong in tier, but this is a very short introduction. This is basically your Zen tutorial. And it doesn't belong in I don't absolutely hate it, but we're getting there, because chapter 16, Gonarch Lair, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This chapter is the Gonarch boss fight. It's a bullet sponge. I don't like it. I don't find it very fun. The baby head crabs that it spits out are super annoying because they're really hard to see, and they actually do. When you're constantly being attacked by multiple of them, you can actually die to them on the hard difficulty. I don't like this at all. And then we get to Interloper, Chapter 17. This is also absolutely going in. This sucks. There is a really good video on YouTube where somebody talked about how this is the worst chapter in Half-Life, and I absolutely agree. This is not just the worst chapter in Half-Life, I think this might be the worst chapter in the entire series. Interloper is terrible. I hate Interloper. The platforming is really annoying. This is where Zen gets really bad. This is where you realize that Zen really sucks, and I do not like Zen. This is ass. Finally, Chapter 18, the Nihilanth. I think is how it's pronounced. I'm going to be bad if I'm pronouncing these wrong. Nihilanth, once again, this is going in S tier. I don't like the final boss fight of Half-Life. I don't think he's fun to fight. I feel like you can't even tell if you're damaging him a lot of the time. It just sucks. It's not a great ending. I don't like the end to Half-Life. I don't like the final boss fight. It sucks. I don't enjoy this at all. Like, this is where the game just completely drops off for me. This is where I mean, sometimes when I replay Half-Life, I'll kind of stop. Like, after Zen, I'll kind of stop. Sometimes I'll stop when when you finish you get to the end of Lambda Core. Sometimes I'll stop playing and move on to Blue Shift because I don't, Zen sucks. I think pretty much everyone's in agreement that Zen sucks, and I don't think I really need to say much as to why Zen sucks. But I don't hate it as much as I hate Interloper. Interloper is straight. And then finally, this is not a chapter, this is the Endgame. Endgame is just where you talk to G-Man. I'm going to stick it on the end of D tier because there's no gameplay or anything. And most of the time, I don't even stick around to watch it because I've usually quit Half-Life 1 at the end of Lambda Core. So there you have it. There's my Half-Life 1 tier list. I probably haven't talked anywhere near as much in this as I have about Half-Life 2. And that's because I really like Half-Life, but I don't have as much to say about it because it's not as... Half-Life 2 is great because it has a lot of sandbox. It has quite a lot of sandbox elements to it, sort of, whereas Half-Life 1 doesn't. But Half-Life 1 is great. I just don't have as much interesting things to say about it. But there's my Half-Life 1 tier list. And as a bonus, I've noticed that in this tier list that's made by somebody else, it's got Uplink in here. Now, Uplink is the Half-Life demo, and in the 25th anniversary update, they made Uplink part of the game, like a chapter that you can play from the menu. Uplink is great, and I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to put it in the Half-Life 1 tier list, because why not? And I would put Uplink in A tier. I think Uplink is a fantastic little demo of everything that makes Half-Life really good. And Uplink is a great thing to study if you want to do Half-Life mapping. Now, I never released any Half-Life 1 maps, but I worked on a Half-Life 1 mod for quite a while. And I will probably pick that back up at some point because I did a lot of really good work. I did a lot of stuff that I think was very good, but I did a lot of stuff that wasn't very good. So I've still got the files. I'll probably pick up my Half-Life 1 mod again that I was working on. But Uplink is a great thing to study if you want to make Half-Life maps, because it is a short sort of demonstration of everything that makes Half-Life good, and it captures the feel of it, and I really like it, and I would put it in A tier. There's probably already a mod that exists out there, but I feel like it would be cool if you could work Uplink into base Half-Life. Like, if you could put it in somewhere, maybe make it part of We Got Hostiles, or you could make it part of Surface Tension or something. Maybe make it part of Forget About Freeman to make that chapter a lot better. But I like Uplink. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's really good. But anyway, there you go. There you have it. That's my Half-Life 1 tier list. Join me next time if you really want to, where I'll do Blue Shift and then I'll do Opposing Force. But like I said, I'm not going to put these all into one giant tier list because it will drive me nuts. But I just do want to add, Opposing Force is fantastic. Opposing Force is so good. So it definitely deserves its own tier list. But yeah, there's my Half-Life 1 tier list. There you go.